Hey YouTubes, it's Jordan Ray here from jordanray.com again with another video. As somebody just sent me an email, pointed out, I never made an example of Array.reduce. I made a video demonstrating map and filter, but I never did one for reduce. I'm not sure why that is. I got distracted with work or something and just never got around to it. So I thought I would make one right now, since I've been using it a lot in some coding that I've been doing for work. So let's quickly, let me whip together an example here. I'm going to declare a variable, and I'll just call it example1, and it's going to be an array with some numbers. Now, reduce is going to allow us to kind of iterate over the whole thing, pass in a function with two parameters. One's going to be called accumulator, and the other one is going to be the current value of the iteration. Current value in the array of the iteration. This is going to take in a function, and we're going to close it. Now, so that's the first parameter of reduce. We're going to give it this function. The second parameter is going to be an empty anything we want. In this case, we're going to just do, you know what we'll do? We're going to do a number. And the whole thing I'm going to actually save into a variable called reduced. Now, what does this actually do? So we got to do something inside of this function that is going to modify this element right here. So for example, in this case, we want to, let's just sum everything up. And we're starting with 0, just because. I'll show you how we can change that in a minute. If I return the current value plus the accumulated value, I should probably just, for clarity's sake, just do accumulated value plus the current value, and that's going to get returned. And let's just take a look at what that is. And we've got 15. Perfect. Now, that's because we're taking 0, adding 1. Then we're taking that 1 and adding 2. Then we're taking that, so that would be 3, and we're adding a 3. Then we're taking that 6 and we're adding 4. And then we're taking that 10 and we're adding 5. Whoops. So we end up with a 15. Now if I started at 20, I should get 35, right? Yeah, 35. Okay, let's put another example together here. I will do, let's have the same array. And let's create reduced, and we're going to do example1, whoops, reduce. And we're going to pass in the function with the accumulator and the current iteration. And we'll start with, let's say, an empty array. Perfect. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to take the accumulator, we're going to push in the current value with some kind of modification. I'll just say element, and we'll just push in the current there, and then we're going to return that accumulator. And we'll log this to the console, reduced. And perfect. Element 1, element 2, element 3, element 4. So we've got an array just like that. We could even throw together another example here. And let's have the exact same array. And we'll do one more time. We'll do example 1. We're going to reduce it with the function accumulated current, and we're going to use an object this time. Now, in our function, we want to then say, let's create an object. Oh, no, sorry. We're using the accumulator. We're going to create a key on it, and we'll just call it key. Yeah, we'll do key current equals current, and then we're going to return the accumulator, and now we should have an object with those properties. And we need to save this, change it to another example. And now we've got an object here with key 1 is equal to 1, key 2 is equal to 2, key 5 is equal to 5, so on and so forth. So those are kind of basic examples of what we're doing. You could pass in a string here at the end, and it really could get super complex with this. And there's even some ways that you can kind of refactor filters and maps to be contained inside of one reduce. So it's a super, super powerful. What we'll be doing here is pulling in this data into our function. And we'll do that. We'll create a vals variable with spreadsheet app. We're going to get the active sheet, and we're going to get data range, which grabs A1 to wherever the last row and last column go, and we're going to get values, and that gets our multi-dimensional array. We're going to shift off the first value, which will be kind of the header row, and then we'll just create. We'll create, I'll just call it ARR, not very creative. And we're going to actually reduce, and the same way I've been doing in those examples, I'm going to use an accumulator and a current. Great, so I need a second parameter in here, and that's going to be just an array. I'm going to then use an if statement to create my filter, and I'm going to return the accumulator. Whoops. Now, what we're going to be doing inside this if statement is modifying the values based off of information we need. This is a good way that you can kind of filter and sort without having to run multiple loops in your functions. You can just do one iteration over the data and modify it as you need. So let's just start. Let's look at the is attending column, and let's just look for ones that are true. So if the current column 3, well, it's actually column 4, but 0 index, we'll call it 3, equals true. Sorry, I'm going to strictly equals there. And then we're going to accumulate, push in the current value. And you'll see here it's returning this. So I need to log to the console my array here. And let's take a look. What do we have? Great. Everything equals true. Eric, Bill, and Charles are all true. And also, if I change this to false, we should have 2, right? I think I only have 2. Perfect. Alan and Daniel are both false. Now, what if we want to look at numbers? Let's do everything, I don't know, everything greater than 70. And so I think that's one column to the left is, how do I do? Greater than, is less than or equal to, greater than or equal to 70. Let's take a look at that. Perfect. So I'm using numbers there. Up 78. There's only one that is greater than or equal to 70. Is that right? Wait, hold on. What did I look at here? Bill, 78, true. Bill shouldn't be. Is he 78? Oh. I'm using a random. I use the random function. I think it's pulling in, pulling that value in there. So let me run this again. Yeah, there we go. 72, 72, and 97. Yeah, that random, it was rerunning the little rand function. If you, built one of the built-in functions for Google Apps Script is this random number generator. And that's what I used to fill out my examples. But that will screw up your functions if you're basing anything on those numbers. Okay, so that's just a good, simple little example of using reduce to filter your data sets. And you could even modify things in here. You could return an object, so it would kind of serve as both your filter and map functions at the exact same time. It's a really powerful function, really, really nice thing to learn. I hope this has been helpful, and I will talk to you soon.